Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Talking Treats. This is a podcast brought to you by the Treats team, where we explore people's passions. We discuss the struggles of having a passion with different guests from around the world in order to learn the best ways to enjoy, learn, and ultimately grow from our passions. I'm joined today by Lorianne, the founder of Treats, who will be co-hosting today with me in this very special episode of Talking Treats. Today's guest is a Haitian American Olympian who has participated in the 2012-2016 and will be participating in the upcoming event in Tokyo. He is known for his challenging demeanor and love for proving people wrong. For us, it's a privilege to speak to him today to discuss the topic of perseverance, the power of sport through passion. So without further ado, let's talk to Jeffrey Julmis. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing out there?
Oh, good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys having me.
So we wanted to touch base a little bit about your start in what is now, I mean, it's your profession, right? And your passion
Yes.
is to be fast.
Yes.
And it's not something that, I mean, at least for me, is very natural in the sense where, when you're a kid and they ask you to run, not all the kids want to run. It's like,
Right.
oh, you're forced to at school. But
Right.
to go from, a young age and decide, okay, this is what I want to do. Or was it a choice of, I'm just so good at this, I can't not waste this talent?
Um, I wouldn't say it's either of those. It's literally, I just knew I was the fastest kid in the elementary. I knew I was the fastest kid in middle school and in high school. So just having that confidence in myself, it kind of made me want to race. But you're absolutely right. Running is totally different from sprinting. So I don't think I've ever had a passion to run, but I've always had the passion to sprint. So
Yeah.
knowing that I was fast, racing my big brothers and eventually beating them, it was always an ego thing to come to school and be like, well, I know I'm the fastest in my class, or I know I'm the fastest in my grade, or I know I'm the fastest in my school. And that's kind of how I got started. I got started from racing my brothers, my older brothers, racing them down the street, racing my friends on the block. And then once I got to elementary school, it was, look, I'm the fastest in my neighborhood, so nobody in this class is beating me. And from beating everybody in the class at PE, we had something called field day in elementary school. So field day was so if you're in the fifth grade, all the fifth graders at the same time came out and you had a field day, which had like hacky sack races, a 50-meter sprint, jump ropes, basketball shooting, you name it, it had the events. So anytime it came to that 50-meter sprint time, I'm ready to go. Like I would suck in like the jump ropes, I would suck in the shooting, but when it came time to sprint and race, I was hype. I was ready. Like, yeah, this is where I shine. So whoever wants to race, let's go.
And it
And
seems like you're still hyped.
oh, definitely. I'm always on go. But I think I've only gotten beaten one time in field day, and it was by a girl. But you guys, as you know, girls develop faster than men. So I'm just taking that excuse and saying that's why I lost, because she was taller, stronger, and faster at the time. But from there, it was just always a passion to run. I always wanted to get faster. I always knew that I could be the fastest. And that's where my journey began.
And the time dedication, though, to go from it, from a field day to, okay, now I need to start preparing for these competitions that are a bit more serious. I'm going to start competing with kids that take this full time. How does that development go into, okay, now I'm going to go and practice, almost daily?
It's eye-opening. Like you said, at first it was just like, hey, I know I'm the fastest, so let me race. And then, like you said, once I got into a meet where kids are doing this every day for their lives versus me just saying, oh, I know I can race, let me jump on the track team. And then you go into your first race and you get blown out of the water. It wasn't the case for me. I didn't get blown out of the water, but I didn't get first. So losing was kind of like, right, it was very new feeling. It was like, whoa, I'm not used to this. And of course, the coach comes and they say, yeah, you're talented, but so is everybody else. So now what are you going to do to gain the same jump or the same drive that have, what are you going to do to get to that? You know, what are you going to do to get to the speed that you see them having? And it was like, well, I got to practice. And like you said, it was different because it went from being fun to being serious. Now I'm at practice dying versus having fun as a kid on the street. So that was kind of a because it was my passion and because I always wanted to be fast. Practice came not easy, but it came natural. So I didn't have to force it. You know, it was like, all right, I know I got to go run these 300s. It's going to suck, but just go out here and do it. Because if you don't, the kids that beat you last week, they're going to beat you again. So having the thought of not getting beat was worse for me than dying at practice. I can deal with dying in a 500-meter workout versus getting last place in a race. Getting that last place is gonna kill my brain. It's gonna kill my heart. I don't want to walk around with that feeling. The feeling of dying at practice lasts 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, the pain is gone. I wake up the next day, I can do it again.
Yeah, no, what you're saying from going from fun to serious, and I think like, yeah, because of course, like there are all these things to do to prepare to reach that final goal, that dream, you know, of going to the Olympic Games, and how, like in those moments of struggling and just feeling like, ugh, like what am I doing, you know, like what are the things that really struck you? Like how do you push through these moments of, you know, that training that you just didn't feel like going to? Or, I mean, did that even happen, or were you just super focused?
There are definitely days where it's like, I'm sick of this, but your end goal comes into play. Yeah, the workouts are hard, but I know I wanted to be an Olympian. So me wanting to be an Olympian supersedes the fact that this workout is hard, or supersedes the fact that this week is hard, or this month is hard, because it's going to be hard. Nothing worth having comes easy. So you want a nice car, you're not just going to walk into a dealership and give somebody $40,000 for a nice car. You have to go to work. No, it would be nice, but you have to go put in some type of work. You have to go, you know, whether that's going to get a job or going out and figuring out your hustle and getting the money to get the car. It's the same thing for athletes. Like, I wanted to be an Olympian. I knew what type of work it was going to take. And in those moments where it was hard as heck, or hard as hell, excuse my language, but when it got hard, the end goal is the thought. It's like, yo, you want to be an Olympian, get up. You said you want to run this time, get up. Like, yeah, you're tired, but there's more in the tank. So it's always focusing on the end goal that gets you through those tough times. Well, at least for me, at least.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, now it's all about the grind culture, right? What are the different things that you can be doing? You know, if you're sitting at home watching TV, but you should be, you know, researching, you should be working out, you should be doing all these things. But it's also really important, and something that I think our audience appreciates is the conversation of also knowing how and when to rest, right? Yes. And disconnecting, which is super important, I think. At least, for example, in my case, I'm a DJ, right? And DJs also have to practice. But if I spend my entire week practicing, you know, making sure I have everything ready, I have to say, to be honest, when it comes to showtime, I'm almost bored. And I don't have as much energy as if I had not, you know, touched the decks for 3-4 days, where I come in, it's like, oh, I'm so excited to do this again. Does that happen to you as well in athletics?
Yes, very much so. You said it perfect. We have the grind culture. Yes, you have to put in work. No questions, no debates. You have to put in work in order to get better. But the same amount of work you're putting in, you also have to rest the body so that it can give you the same amount of output each day. So, and athletes tend to, well, let me say this, younger athletes tend to not see that part. Also, younger coaches who have either never been on a professional level or have never coached a professional or seen a professional in their setting, they also have that mindset of work with no rest. But if you don't rest, your body won't give you anything. And I can give you guys a perfect example. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, I had a competition, and up until the competition, I was doing awesome. Everything was clicking. I was running times in practice. I was running times at the meet. But the past 2 competitions, I ran like crap. I don't know if I could curse, so I'm gonna change up my words. I ran like crap. And the first time it was like, there was some technical aspects. Maybe, we'll go back to the drawing board, see what's going on. But then the next week again, I ran like crap again. So now coach is like, all right, your body is clearly needs, like, there's something that's going on and we can't figure it out. We're doing everything that we're supposed to do in practice, but your body's not responding. He gave me the week off. He was like, look, just a whole week. And it's hard. And in track and field, all it takes is 3 days to get out of shape. You take 3 days completely off without doing anything, you're out of shape. I don't care who you are, how long you've been working, how hard you've been working. After 3 days, you're out of shape. And I mean of doing nothing, like just sitting down, sitting in the house, lounging around. But he gave me the week off. Of course, did a jog here and there, do some core work, make sure I'm stretching and rolling. But after the week off, my body completely reset. Like that next Monday in practice, the same way I was getting killed the week before, now I'm in practice keeping up with everybody, just like I was before my body went out of whack. So that was clearly a moment where my body said, hey, look, we've been working hard, but I need to rest. Yeah, well, you get to go home and rest, but that's not enough. I need more rest. So that week off made a hell of a difference. And of course, this week, I run not a season's best, but I run faster than the 2 meets prior where I ran like crap.
Did you feel it? Do you feel it in the body?
Yes.
When you even before running, I guess, even before competing, you have more juice.
Right. And that's actually a hard concept to learn, the body. As a young athlete, you just want to go, no matter what's hurting, no matter what's going on, your body recovers like this in high school. Like you can run 1,200 meters worth of workouts, come back the next day, after an hour really, and come back and do the same amount of work because your body recovers. But as you get older, you need that time to recover. And if you don't know your body, you won't feel it. But for me, my body tells me as soon as I wake up. You wake up and you move different. Like your limbs are it's like the Tin Man who needed oil. When he don't get that oil, his hand is like your joints, the joints, the knees, the elbows, your hamstrings, your glutes, they all do the same thing. You start to feel heavy. You start to feel like your body just doesn't want you to move. And when you get that feeling, it's good to tell your coach, hey, coach, my body's feeling like crap. I need some time. You know what I mean? So you definitely feel it.
I guess I just want to jump back on this idea of the fact that you had a week rest and just what do you do in that week? Because back in that grind kind of mentality, when you're used to training so much and having your days filled with things, like what do you do on your free time? And how do you, kind of help your body rest, but at the same time still not lose time?
So free time is stretching, rolling, and relaxing. Because there's too much. You can do too much of everything. So after practice, it's a cool down, jog a couple laps or run a few strides, roll out, stretch. But that stretch is just to get you through the next 2 to 3 hours. But before you go to bed that night, and especially if you leave practice and you have another job or you have things that are going on around you and you're still on your feet, now when you get home and you actually have time to digress, you have to roll out again. You have to stretch again, but not too much. You do it a little bit and then really it's just relax. Make sure you're eating properly. For me, I like to do mental things, like either read something that's going to work on my mental, just to make sure that I'm not thinking negatively, or, if I had a bad thought in the week, trying to figure out where that thought came from and how to get past it. But outside of that, my free time is watching TV. Because I get, it for a while I would want to do extra, like, I know I had a hard practice, but I'm gonna go run an extra mile. Now I don't do any of that stuff. It's not necessary, because all I'm doing is giving my body more work than it needs.
So what do you watch then? Netflix, or what's your series of the moment?
So I got a couple series. On Amazon Prime, there's this new anime show called Invincible Elite. It's a superhero show. The creators of Walking of the Dead, they created it. And it's about superheroes, and it's gory. It's not like your Superman and Batman where they punch the guy and he flies through 8 buildings. This one, they punch the guy and his head comes off, like sever it. It's gory. There's blood. It's pretty
savage.
Cool. Outside of that, I watch Star Trek. I watch Supergirl. Man, there's so much. Snowfall. I just have a different. There's a lot of series that I watch, but I just try to keep my mind away from what I'm doing, because it's also good to sometimes walk away from what you're doing and be in another space. So what I mean by that is I can't bring practice home with me, especially if it's a bad one. You know, sometimes you got to step away from the track and be away from the track, just so your mind isn't constantly at practice or constantly in competition mode, because now I can't think properly. Now I'm always on edge or always antsy. You don't want to be that way.
I mean, bad practice is one thing, right? But I guess to a certain point, you have to prepare yourself for a bad meet is a different level. If you have a bad performance, I guess that sticks with you a bit longer than a bad training, because the next day you can go and train again, but a bad meet doesn't come so regularly. Like,
exactly.
Do you have to go into it? And this is going to sound a little strange, right? But do you have to go into it with your mind strong enough to be prepared to lose, but at the same time also be convinced that you will win?
Yeah. Dan, that's a great question. But to answer your question, yes, you need to go in there thinking you're going to win. You never want to go in with any negative thoughts. And it's crazy because I literally just learned today, and I have to do more research on it, learning about the way the brain works. So I forget the 3, but I know 2 of them of your brain working is your ego and your super ego. So with your super ego, right, the super ego, once you think a negative thought, it supersedes every thought after. No matter how many, you could think 1,000 positive thoughts after, but that one little negative thought that you took or you thought of, it now takes over everything. So no, you don't want to think about losing. But if it happens, it's losing is a process. Losing isn't always losing. Sometimes you lose because you didn't execute a part of your race. Sometimes you lost because you didn't do something right in the warm up. But you can always go back, evaluate everything, and see why you lost. But sometimes you just lost because it wasn't your day, and you have to prepare for. You have to prepare to think positively about the negative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
So if the negative does happen, you can just say, hey, all right, I know that was a negative, but look at this positive, look at that positive, and look at this positive out of it. Like, okay, I might have ran 14.5, but you know, I kept my positions and my trail leg was coming over the way I wanted it. I was keeping it tight. The other stuff we could focus on to fix, like, all right, I wasn't running fast enough in between. We could fix that in practice. I wasn't shuffling my arms fast enough in between. I could fix that in practice versus thinking, damn, I didn't shuffle, or man, I didn't. I mean, it's life. You're a human. Mistakes are going to happen. How do you move forward from those mistakes? Or how do you look at those mistakes and realize that you can work on not making that mistake again versus thinking I made that mistake and now it's the worst thing in the world?
And I guess that's where you lean on the coach, right? Where
definitely
it's a wall for you to say, okay, cool. You watched it. You saw it the same way. You know how I've been training. What happened here?
Right.
Was it just my mindset, or was it a technical thing that I was missing? And I think at that point, you start working through that process of going from the negative thought to, okay, now I'm going to use that as feedback to make sure the next race I'm even better.
Exactly. Yeah. And you said it best. Your coach plays a huge role in that, as far as seeing you. You know, you're within yourself. So a lot of times you have a routine. When you get to a track meet or you get to practice, you're so in your routine that you don't see certain things. Like in track and field, we get flat. So what that means is usually we have a bounce to us. Like the way you're warming up is a bounce in a sense of speed. And when you don't have that, your coach will say you're flat. So a lot of times you can't see that. Like I just said, you're in a routine and you don't see it. So you rely on your coach to look at you and say, you know, and clearly this is after the race. He's not going to come to you before the race and say, hey, you looking flat. You know, he's going to wait till after the race and, you know, because sometimes you can feel flat and still run fast. So depending on the outcome of the race, he can say, hey, you know, you were looking flat during this part of your warm up, or, you know, I seen you during a race, this happened and that happened. And that's probably because you were flat or you didn't get this part of your warm up done. So you definitely lean on the coach for that aspect. But even still, when you hear what was wrong, you don't look at it as a negative. You look at it as something that you can go and fix in practice.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, this kind of external eye, and I mean, you yourself, you're a coach as well. And how do you, I mean, I assume that you also kind of see that with the students that you coach, you know, when they're flat or when they have that bounce.
Yes.
Yeah. And so like, how do you, maybe kind of moving a little bit away from that, but still in there, like what are the key kind of tips that you give your students to persevere? And even if, you know, if you feel that they're flat, like what do you kind of give them, you know, or tip or to push through?
So it's weird, but I do anything it takes to get them out of that thought process. So sometimes you can be too focused on your goal. That's very hard to explain, but it's kind of like, head. Yeah, you're in the zone and you don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you're just dialed in. And sometimes you can be so focused to the point that you actually race badly because you didn't have fun. So that's the key, is the fun. So whenever I see my student athletes that are like, I could see they're in their head, or I could see they're nervous, or I could see something is going on, I'll go make a joke with them, or I'll take them out of that thought. Like, hey, what were you thinking this morning? Look at your hair, or anything funny, or anything that will get them to laugh or leave that moment for a second. So now they can reset. Because that reset now is like, okay, coach, just joke with me. I'm good. Like I'm outside of my nervousness. You're still going to be nervous, but you're not as, oh my God, what is going to happen? What's going to happen? And you can see that in athletes. And like I said, once I see that, depending on what's going on, if it's a technical thing that they're doing wrong, I'll just go over and say, hey, come here, give me a hug. You'll be all right. Stop thinking so much. Go out here and have fun. And if they're like, but coach, I'm so nervous. And I'll say something like, well, you're also ugly too. We can't fix that. And that'll make them laugh. Exactly. So that will make them laugh. And they'll be like, yeah, you're right, coach. And I'll be like, I can't fix you being ugly, but I can fix what you got going on right now. So don't think about it. Go out here and have fun. And they're like, coach, you're right. And then they'll get back into the blocks, or they'll get back into their zone, and they're good to go. Yeah. It's literally the same for us as professionals. Like, when coach see I'm too nervous, or he see I'm getting in my head too much, he'd be like, yo, Jeff, stop thinking so goddamn much. Oh, you right, coach. I got you. Your ugly self. I'm like, yeah, here you go. And once he gets me out of that mind, now I can go back and refocus.
Yeah, I think it's really important or really fun what you're saying about this aspect of humor and kind of having a light touch to it, because at the end of the day, when you're, you know, this type of career, it's really from your heart, from the passion, right, that you have from it. And when you can kind of get lost, I guess, in this, like what you're saying, you know, this kind of tunnel vision, and then you kind of forget that it's your passion, it's what you love doing, and it's bringing you joy, right? Like that's why you're doing it at the end of the day. And yeah, sure, you're winning things, but anyways, I thought that was really a really interesting point.
You're absolutely right, and it's for me, it's I think that comes from society putting their. And not just society, because us as athletes, we tend to get in that state of mind too, where we become so professional that we forget to have fun. We forget that we're out here, like you said, doing our passion, which is kind of why a lot of people, you know, they, I'm looking for the right word, gravitated towards Usain Bolt, because Bolt was not just an athlete; he was personable. He was having fun. He was out there making jokes. He was, you know, throwing up the Bolt sign. And before Bolt, when you went to a track meet or you're watching a track meet on TV, when they're introducing dudes, they're like straight face, not looking left, not looking right, looking mad. And it's like, bro, you're a little too tense. You need to relax a little bit. You know what I mean? So
I mean,
Sometimes you got to get outside yourself.
Not talking about having fun. You've been to the Olympics, which must have been very fun. But I guess,
Yes.
and actually, I believe that in your TED talk you mentioned that in your first Olympics you were having so much fun that you even got distracted, right? The crowd
Yes.
it's a different level, right?
Yes.
And last podcast we had Misha Zverev, professional tennis player, who was actually telling us that he doesn't pay attention at all to the crowd, and in fact, if there were nobody in the stands, he wouldn't even know. After now having more experience in this kind of more public scene, what is your view on the crowd?
That's funny. Great question. The reason why it's funny is because the crowd is usually what fuels me. Yeah. From high school to college, the crowd was the fuel. Like, my peoples are in the stands, my friends are in the stands. I know I'm gonna kill this race, and you hear your name and the crowd goes crazy. All that fueled me. But it was also because it was at the most 20,000 people. When you get to the Olympics and it's 80,000, 90,000, that's a whole different ball game, because you're not just dealing with the sense of, your friends and your family. It's the noise. If you don't know how to block the noise out, the noise will get to you. Then looking at the crowd will get to you. Because like I said in my TED talk, the advice was, hey, go out here, set your blocks. Don't look up, don't look left, don't look right. Just go out here, set your blocks, get ready to run.
Yeah.
I was young and dumb. I didn't listen. I walked out, and the first thing I did was look up. And I was like, whoa, these are a lot of people. And they are screaming at the top of their lungs. That was the first time I ever felt sound.
And that's just the live aspect. There's people on TV.
The live aspect. Exactly. Well, I can't see the people on TV. I can't see the people on the camera, so that doesn't bother me. But, and it's crazy because I've been to parties sitting next to the speaker. I could feel the bass, but feeling the bass of sound from screaming is a totally different feeling. And I wasn't used to it. But then that wasn't what made it worse. What made it worse was when they called my name and they said, from Haiti, Jeffrey Julmis. And the crowd went bananas. They were cheering like I've never heard cheering before, which I wasn't expecting. I didn't think they were going to cheer that way. So that made me nervous, which usually makes me like, yeah, like, let's go. I'm ready to run. But that made me nervous. So but you mentioned it. Over time, I got used to the crowd. So just like the tennis player said, I tune it out. Like, before I even walk out, the sound is tuned out. Everything is tuned out. I'm focused on my race. So let's see if this year, with the crowd being 25, they said that it's only going to be 25%.
Yeah.
For me, it's going to be just like practice, because we don't practice with a crowd. So
yeah.
Hey, I'll be in my house. It's nothing for me.
Yeah. So we talk about passions a lot, and we talk about running, but do you have any other passions that you practice to like relax or not to relax?
Weirdly, so I can talk in an English accent. I can talk like this.
No way. That came out of nowhere.
I've literally been doing it since like elementary school. Like,
I think we have to continue the podcast like that.
If I'm watching a movie and they're talking like this, I can actually talk more like them.
No, so, I can't deal with
this. So like impressions. Honestly, I'm a fun going person. So anything that's gonna make me laugh is what I love doing. But I think I have a passion for like talking in the English accent. And it sounds weird, but in the same way you just said that came out of nowhere, I do it randomly. Like, I'll be at practice and all of a sudden I'm talking like this and everyone's like, what's wrong with you, man? What you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like talking like this today. So it's really weird, but that's probably one of my other passions.
That's hilarious. No, wow, that was impressive.
So I don't know if you guys know. Do you guys watch the show All American? Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the show Snowfall?
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Okay, so both of those actors, they do a really good job of speaking in the American accent, like how I'm speaking. But both of those guys are British, just like Idris Elba. A lot of people didn't know that Idris Elba was British.
Yeah.
So I always laugh and joke and tell people like, yo, when I'm done running track, like the same way these British dudes are coming over here and taking all the acting jobs, I'm gonna move to Great Britain and get an acting job out there because I'm speaking their accent.
Oh, I love that.
But it's just a running joke. I don't know if I'd really do that for real, but I wouldn't mind it.
It's definitely a great way to, what you were saying earlier, to kind of help your students get out of that zone, like just start.
Definitely.
I was gonna start myself in that English.
My accent was approved by people from the UK. Like when I go over there, I start speaking in the accent and, oh, where are you from? I'm like, well, I'm from Birmingham. And they're like, really? Your accent's really good. And I'm like, yo, I'm not. I'd be like, I'm not from here. They're like, oh my goodness, I thought you were from here. Nah, not even a little bit. I was just joking.
That's so good. Hey,
if you didn't know and couldn't tell, Harry Potter is my favorite movie series.
Is it?
It's great.
Yes.
Yeah. It's great.
I just wanted to jump back also a little bit back to the sports and your coaching and also kind of your ambitions. So talking about the role of sports for children and their development, what's in your opinion, what's the biggest role of sports, how does it play? What's the importance of sports for children, basically? And I know that, earlier we had a quick chat, talking about wanting to maybe kind of do some development work with children using, your own passion. So
definitely.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, to answer the first question, why athletics is important, in my personal opinion, I think it teaches a level of discipline. It teaches you how to work hard. Because before you go to practice, I say this all the time and I say it to my athletes. It sounds good to say I want to be great until it's time to put in the work. Mm-hmm. Everyone says, I want to be great. I want to be great. I want to be great until it's time to put in the work. So once you actually do come to practice and you get through maybe 2 reps, that's super hard. You're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. But once you learn to get past that, I get a lot of athletes and even myself, anytime I've had to work a regular job or have to do anything outside of track, when it comes to hard work, it's kind of ingratiated in me. I don't have to, it's second nature. I don't have to think. It's like you give me the task and I go right into it. And I feel like that's something that you learn in sports. You don't really learn. You can learn it outside of sports, but you get a really good sense of it in sports. So I think that's very important. You gain a level of confidence that a lot of people may not have or may need. So confidence, discipline, work ethic are probably 3 of the major keys of why I think athletics is important. But outside of that, I mean, just the sheer nature of the competitiveness is why it's important. Me thinking that I'm better than you and proving that I'm better than you is very important in life, because I mean, life is synonymous to sports. I'm trying to be the best version of myself in regular life. It's the same in sports. I'm trying to be the best version of myself to be the best athlete I can be. So just the sheer competitiveness is, for me, is super important. But I'd probably say those things off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I think the structure that it brings as well. I mean, what you're saying, that kind of routine that you're used to it. And I think a lot of children also find some comfort in that structure. They might not have it at home, or they might not, for whatever reason it is. And sports kind of brings that sense of comfort and also a community feeling. Like, you have
yes, the sense of family.
Exactly. And that you're together practicing something and, like you're saying, just trying to get the best of it and learning from each other. And yeah,
being a part of something.
I'm a huge believer in just the power of sports, and
right.
Yeah, hopefully one day with with Treats we can kind of dig a bit deeper into that aspects as well in our development work.
Definitely. I'm track and field saved my life. So if track and field could save my life, I'm pretty sure it could save a lot of others. Not just track and field, but sports in general. It's just track and field was a sport that saved me. So I'm pretty sure another sport. And if you go across the board in a lot of sports, you tend to hear, it's kind of a cliche. You hear a lot of athletes say, this sport saved my life, and it's true story. So sports is definitely important. And I think it keeps people out of trouble. No, it kept me out of trouble.
Great. So just to round off the interview, we wanted to do a fun little game.
All right, I'm with it.
Laurie will introduce to you.
All right.
Yes, so we have this habit of ending the podcast with a little game called This or That. I don't know if you know the game, but the idea is that we give you two options and you have to pick your preference.
I'm with it. Let's get it.
Okay, let's go. So first one, if you had to choose between these two desserts, which one would you go for? Key lime pie or douce macos?
Key lime pie. No questions, no debates.
Love it. Okay. Well, okay, just quickly, the other one was a douce macos, which is a Haitian version of a fudge. I don't know if have you ever had that?
I've had it. I'm cool.
Key lime
pie over everything.
Love it.
Wow.
Okay, then what about sports? So in the Olympic Games, if you had to do something else, would you do diving or fencing?
Ooh. Why'd you have to give me those two?
Because they're so random and away from what you do.
No, but they're also two things that I've always wanted to try. Both.
Really?
Yes. Fencing
right on the
so
money.
Cool, and diving,
it does,
right.
Yeah.
Fencing looks so cool, and diving. I mean, I used to fake dive, at school, doing off the little diving board. But I probably want to fence because sometimes the way they hit that water, it looks like it hurts. And you can only get hurt so much with that fencing tool. So they wear a lot of gear. I think I'm gonna choose fencing.
Is there a sport you wouldn't do?
A sport I wouldn't do?
Yeah.
The marathon.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
No, I'm not. No running. No running distance. No running distance. That's probably the first sport that comes to my mind. No marathon running.
Okay, so continuing on this game, in terms of travels, so I'm personally Dutch, so from the Netherlands, and Carlos is from Spain. And right before this, we had a little competition. So here we go.
Okay.
If you had to travel to Europe, where would you go? The Netherlands or Spain?
I'd have to go to the Netherlands.
No, I can't believe it.
I said it.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
Listen, the only reason why, and this is gonna sound so terrible, but I've had so many Spanish friends in my life, even some from Spain. So I kind of feel like I've been there without being there.
Okay. I mean, you're from Florida, so it's nothing new, right? The sun is not a huge pull. Yeah,
exactly. And the Netherlands is beautiful. Anytime I've watched the Discovery Channel or Planet Earth and they go to the Netherlands, it's always beautiful. So I'm sorry. I want to go to the Netherlands.
Oh, it will definitely be a bit of fresh air there in the Netherlands.
I bet.
Nothing like Florida. And our last one in music, would you go for R&B or electronic?
R&B.
And who's your favorite artist?
R&B artist?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or artist, period.
Period. Go for it.
All right, there's levels to this. All right.
Can you do it in a British accent?
All right, I can talk like this. So when it comes to rap, when it comes to hip hop, of all time, my favorite of all time, it's not any levels to it, but Jay-Z is number one. It's not close. But as of right now, because he's a little older in the game, I love Kendrick Lamar. Like that's who I listen to every day.
Poet.
He has
The
like at
poet.
least 10 tracks on my meet day playlist. You know, the music I listen to before I compete. I listen to Kendrick Lamar, and that's who I listen to right now. So him and J. Cole are probably like the two that I listen to now, as far as hip hop goes. For R&B, of all time, it's probably Usher, of course.
Ooh.
Solid, pretty solid pick.
But right now, I don't know if you guys know the artist Her, Her.
Of course.
That's how you spell her name. It's like that's
She's
literally
amazing.
right now. I listen to her. I know all of her songs, like back to back, word for word. You put on the song and I'll sing it back to back like right now.
Hard place hits right here.
Yes. When it comes to like rock, I don't. There's so many levels to rock as far as like heavy metal and all the categories. So I don't really know the categories per se, but I'm a big fan of Panic at the Disco, Creed, and they're an older group, but I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. And they have a song called Toxicity. I forgot the name. Sorry about that. But they're an older group. But Panic at the Disco and Creed are like my alternative music that I listen to. I don't really listen to country music like that. So I can't say I have a favorite artist in that. I don't listen to heavy metal. That's for sure. That's probably where it stops for me.
Good enough. Works for us. Some good song recommendations for the audience.
Of course. Kendrick Lamar.
That's really a good one. And also good choices, but also good accent again. Can I have like a
thank you so
silent
much.
round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time and for all your advice. And it was just really a great chat.
Now, I'd love to do another interview with you guys, another podcast. So I'd say either at the games, you guys want to do a podcast while I'm over there?
Sounds good.
That would be great.
All right.
But this time with the Japanese accent, huh?
Oh, yeah. I'll work on that. I will work.
Challenge accepted.
I got you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great time and best of luck at the games. We'll definitely be supporting you and sending all our best wishes from afar.
All right. Thank you so much. You guys have a
great day. Bye-bye.
Speak soon. Bye-bye.